Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at a bunch of different stuff that is going on today and also over the weekend. The first one that is available is the Soviet Tankers Day. Basically, in Russia, they celebrate Tankers Day on the 11th of September 1944, because that's when the Red Army's ground forces broke through German defenses in the Eastern Carpathians. So nowadays it's celebrated, and in War Thunder it gets celebrated too. So what you get is, first of all, an event where you can get yourself a golden HE decoration, which looks really cool. You just have to win 5 battles using Soviet ground vehicles at rank 3 or higher, until the 9th of September. So basically over the weekend, which shouldn't be too hard to do if you have a bit of time. The other thing they're also doing is a 30% discount on Soviet tanks in the Gaijin store. This is everything apart from the T-80UE-1, so the TURMS, the IS-6, the T-55AM, the Object 120, and also the USSR starter pack, which is quite nice. So what I'll do is I'll do individual little reviews of each of them and my thoughts at their current BR. Another thing to also mention, though, is if you do want to pick up anything, make sure to use my partner code so you can get discounts and also support the channel and the decal in-game as well. Let's get into the vehicle reviews. So the first vehicle that's on offer is the T-72AV TURMS-T. This is a decent premium for the Soviets. I've always never really enjoyed it compared to other premiums that are around the 10.0, 10.3 area, but it's still fine for getting, RP, it's still fine for getting SL. The major problem with it is, as I said, stuff like the Leopard 2A4 is now a premium, the M1KVT is a premium, and a bunch of others at the 10.0, 10.3 area, which are just kind of stronger than you. The TURMS has some very nice things to it. It has a lovely thermal package for the gunner and the commander. It gets 3 BM42, which is a fantastic round for this BR range. What it also gets is all the stuff that a T-72A has, so it only gets contact 1, which isn't very useful at this BR. It also has the transmission of a standard A series, so it cannot reverse. So once you're in danger, you can't get out. The targeting speed is absolutely horrific on the gun. You can see here, vertical guidance of 2 and the horizontal guidance of 12. Now this will get better with cruise and also modifications, but it's still absolutely horrific compared to its standard counterparts in other tech trees, which means that getting the gun on first compared to the other enemies that are around has always been an issue with it. So for me, when it came to this vehicle, it used to be quite good, mainly because you could rely on the round, but now you have worse mobility, a worse reload, a terrible targeting speed, an armor that does not really stand up to what's around. So it's in a pretty rough position in my opinion, even though you'll get a lot of matchmaking around your BR and you'll get down to quite a lot, it still has so many factors that don't really help it. And also you have things like the 2S38 of this BR, which are just infinitely better options with much more utility. The T55AM1 is also on sale. I'd say this is probably in a better position than the TURMS, being at rank 6 and also 8.7. The 8.7 area is very strong at the moment because they bumped up a lot of stuff from like 7.7, 7.3 to 8.0. So now, you feel your tier a lot more. And since 10.3 and 10.0 are so strong, a lot of 9.0s and 9.3s got updated into it. So 8.7, I wouldn't class it as a meta BR, but it's in a really nice place right now. The Soviet tech tree as well has a fantastic 8.7 lineup, so adding this to it helps quite a lot. The 100 is pretty decent. It's got the stabilizer, which is a big plus. You have also the APF SDS, the 3BM25, but you also have a bunch of other things if you want to use them, like the ATGM, which is quite fun, and then also the heat, but it's probably not best to use that. At the end of the day, you still have some very strong rounds that you can use with this vehicle. It does also have the added protection, which has saved me many times on this vehicle. when I've been facing it and it's been very, very annoying, or when I've had teammates where I've been trying to keep them alive. You can see the shells like ricochet off of it in weird ways. Reminds me of the ZTZ-88, for example, which is about. It still has, you know, not the best reverse, but that's pretty much all Soviet tanks at this BR. But the survivability of this is quite good, since all of the first stage is actually in this fuel tank in the front. So you have to penetrate through this, and then get to the ammo, which is definitely not easy to do. So the T-55AM1 has always been criminally under-tiered. Right now, I think it is in a better position balance-wise than it was previously, but now the actual BR range of this is just insane. If you have a look at the Soviet tech tree of this BR, it's got a amazingly good lineup, not just from a ground perspective, from an air perspective too. So it's definitely worth getting for that and to grind through the Soviet tech tree. The IS-6 is also here. I wouldn't say it's in as strong of a position as it was previously, but previously it was completely broken. So there isn't really a lot of kind of redeeming it from that point. The IS-6 has always been very strong. It's still strong now. It's just not as strong as it used to be, and I feel like now that there are better tech tree options. The IS-4M comes to mind, since they're the same BR now. It has very good mobility for a heavy tank, which is what the IS series is kind of known for. It has okay armor on the front, since you don't face too many stabilizers unless you get fully up-tiered. So sometimes you can shrug off shells, or because of the stabilization of your gun, even though it isn't stabilized, because of the suspension on this vehicle, it feels like it's stabilized a lot of the time. What ends up happening is you can get the first shot off, which is quite nice. It does have a long reload, but it does also have the best reload out of all the 122s in the heavy tanks for the Soviets. So you're not going to get a better reload than this. And also you get the BR-471D round, which actually overpressures targets when you penetrate because it has enough TNT equivalent. So as long as you pen with this round, the target dies. And that is very frustrating to face, because it means if you are using the IS-6, no matter what you're fighting, as long as you know where the weak spot is, you can just nuke it, and there's nothing you can do about it. It also has the Dishka, which helps out quite a lot. I would say, once again, the Soviet lineup at 7.7 is nice. It's nowhere near as nice as the 8.7 lineup, but it's still very good. And when you get up to this thing is not going to be that useful. But at the same time, you have the IS-4, so you can give that a go as well. I don't know if I would run this as kind of like a solo vehicle anymore. You used to be able to because it was crazy strong. But nowadays, you actually, you know, can't rely on your armor as much. So I'd probably say not to do that. The Object 120 went up in BR a ton because of the decompression stuff. I really don't like this vehicle. I've never really enjoyed it, basically because the gun's cool, you know? The 152mm, it's got a 10-second reload, which is fantastic because of the autoloader. It has a very good penning round. All of that is just great to, you know, talk about. The mobility on the vehicle, it's actually pretty good. You can move around quite well. It's all really nice. The problem I have with this, no stabilizer, so getting the gun on target could be a problem. Not a lot of gun depression, which is also a issue, and also absolutely no survivability. So whenever I play a vehicle like this, or the vehicle, what ends up happening is something simple. I get into a very good position. I'm able to fight with the gun against tanks. I'm able to get maybe 2 or 3 kills. And then I get bombed, or I get rocketed, or something happens from the air, and I just get hammered. Or a autocannon machine at this BR just wanders around and just annihilates me. There are just a lot better machines at this BR which aren't as situational, and if you want a premium to grind with, you don't want a situational one. You want something that's good in most situations, and that's not what the 120 is. The 120 is oh, I'm on that map now with some longer ranges, and I can kind of sit back and take this kind of decent sniper spot and then just hammer stuff from the side. Okay, I'll do that. But if you are on a lot of close quarter maps, which, you know, most of them are nowadays, you're not really going to be able to do too much with this. Even though the round will go through anything you fire it at, and the reload is very good for this type of gun, it just doesn't matter. Like, you're running up against tanks which are much better at that playstyle than you are, so you're going to struggle. The last one is the T126, which is the thick T50. This vehicle is actually in the starter pack that you can buy, and you also get Zhukovsky's I-153M62 alongside of it, plus a bunch of premium count and 120,000 SL. The starter packs are always the best value for money to actually buy in the game, so if you are a person who wants value, this is it with the starter pack. But also at the same time, you know, sometimes they go 50% off, so it's better to like pick them up then. Right now, if you pick it up, it still is very, very good value. Basically, this vehicle is like $1, I think, or something close to it. So the T126 is a thick boy T50. What this means is it has a slightly wider chassis and also has some interesting characteristics while it wanders about. It is pretty fast forward, but not fast backwards, but at 3.0, that doesn't really matter too much. There isn't a lot of stuff which is highly mobile at 3.0 that can do that. The PUMA, but that even went up in BR a bunch. This vehicle here has good gun depression, and also at the same time it has scouting, which is really nice, and okay rounds. You know, not the best in the world. They got nerfed pretty hard, but if you pen with the 45, you know, you can do some pretty good damage. The major problem with this vehicle, it doesn't have a lineup. So if you actually have a look at the rank area where it is, you can see here the T126, it's at 3.0. So what else is at 3.0? Well, you have the ZIS-12. That's it. So that's not good. That's pretty horrific, actually. So you have to run it at higher BRs. And it can still be a very good scout because it can use its mobility to gain good positions first. It can ricochet shots because it has quite a lot of armor for a scout, which is surprising at this BR. But the major issue with it is you go up against vehicles that are better, and because you have to up-BR it. So if this thing actually had a proper lineup, it's a go-to, it's a must, it's a really good vehicle. But since you run it by yourself, and because the gun doesn't have a great targeting speed, because, you know, the gun doesn't have great penetration and you have no smoke to reposition or anything, it's a lot harder of a buy. I still think it should be bought because the starter pack is so good, but at the same time, the fact is it's a vehicle that struggles in terms of its matchmaking, and that hurts it quite a lot. Then we go on to the changelogs. The first one is update 2.37.0.170, and this is insane. I can't believe there hasn't been more people talking about this one. When I saw it a few days ago, I just couldn't believe it. It was a bug that caused all radar types and missile radar seekers to ignore launched weaponry, so bombs, rockets, and missiles, and also chaff has been fixed. So basically, the chaff was worthless. It didn't do anything. It was not working. It did not break the radar lock. It did not break the missile radar seekers lock either. I don't know how people didn't catch this earlier, because this is nuts. The video that the guy used actually in the bug report is of an F8 where he just he locks onto a MiG-21 with his radar. The MiG-21 is chaffing over and over and over again. It's doing absolutely nothing, and then obviously gets hit by an AIM-9C. That is game breaking because it basically means you cannot defend. The only way you can defend is actually by, you know, trying to get away from the missile or trying to remove yourself from the area, which is great and all, but then you give up so much in doing that, and then they can just do it again. So your main defense against this missile type, you know, the radar missiles, you couldn't use. That's nuts. And no wonder people were having issues against a bunch of different things. No wonder people were having issues against semi-actives and actives over the last period of time. Because the defenses that your brain is programmed to look at and to be like, hey, I need to do this and everything will be good, weren't working. That's crazy to me. But yeah, it's fixed now, so we don't have to worry about it. Then we have update 2.37.0.178. By the way, this changelog uses some of my favorite art that Gaijin has ever produced. It's a T64BV where there's flames coming out of the side, and it looks very, very dusty, as if like it's walking through a ruined city. It looks absolutely lovely. So for ground vehicles, there was a bug that caused the button for launching a UAV to change to the button for deploying a UGV activation, causing a tank to spawn. That's been fixed. Yeah, that was kind of a fun one, wasn't it? I don't know if you saw some of the videos about it. I didn't want to make a video myself because I usually don't like showcasing bugs unless it's on the dev server, because obviously trying to get them fixed. But yeah, you could actually spawn a new tank while trying to launch a UAV, which basically meant you had a remote control tank, which you could do whatever you want with, which is kind of nuts, but luckily they fixed it. There was also a bug that caused shell replenished on a capture point to be damaged if they were lost in an ammo rack fire, so that's been fixed too. There was also a synchronization bug that caused the destroyed reactive armor to appear functional for the player who has spawned in after the destruction of said armor has been fixed. So, you know, it actually... You see, what the most important thing in games is what you see is what exists, and if that isn't happening, then, you know, people can't trust the game. Luckily, they fixed it there. A synchronization bug that caused the player to be visually shooting for other players if the player was holding down the firing key with a broken down autoloader has been fixed. Now, that type of bug has been in game for ages in different forms. I don't know if you guys remember the machine gun bug, for example, where machine guns would just randomly fire even though they weren't firing for different people. So yeah, it's really weird at the end of the day, but nice to see that they fixed it. For aircraft, now when landing on an enemy aircraft carrier, a player will surrender just like it happens when on landing on an airfield, so that's good, instead of, you know, taking over the carrier, I suppose. And then also for the interface, they added a notification of when a reported player got banned. That's been added from the roadmap, which is very cool. Nice to see that they implemented that really quickly. I know that's very important for some people, you know, having acknowledgement that their actions are working. So I'm glad that they added that in. There was also a bug that caused the reloading values of the top crew in the X-ray view to not display, or display wrongly for ground vehicles with multiple cannons. That's been fixed as well. There was also a bug that caused the reloading values for the top crew and X-ray view of some ships to not reflect the actual values. So once again, having to trust your eyes, even though they're lying to you. So nice to see that's fixed. There was also a bug that prevented the research window from closing if, after researching all vehicles, a player had some extra research points left. That's been fixed too. And a bug that caused the icon tooltip informing about the possibility to remove a vehicle from the crew slot just by dragging it to not fit into the remove from preset button located in the change vehicle menu. That has also been fixed. So a lot of kind of interface stuff. The interface stuff they've added has been absolutely fantastic. One of the things I'll also note is the customization stuff for the sites looks really nice. I'll make an individual video on that because I think that's really cool. So yeah, we'll have a look at that in a bit. I thought in this video also we'd talk about some of the devblogs that have come out over the last day. Basically because we've already had a look at the vehicles on the dev server, so it's not really any new information. You first of all had the PUMA VJTF, which is of course the PUMA with spikes. And they did leave a bit of a vehicle history. In the late 2010s, the Bundeswehr sought to upgrade its PUMA IFVs to the latest technological standard. In 2021, the official approval of the modernization of 40 PUMAs was obtained. The new variant would feature the implementation of the Spike LR ATGM and enhanced communication systems, among other upgrades, with a target deployment rate for the vehicles being set for 2023. The vehicles form two platoons of the Bundeswehr and are dedicated to the German element forming the NATO Very High Readiness Joint Task Force 2023, which is why it's called the PUMA VJTF. Future plans include the modernization of all PUMAs in the Bundeswehr stock to be upgraded to this standard. So yeah, the main thing in the game that it's getting is the MELS launcher, which is the twin-barreled Spike LR launcher. It's going to get 4 missiles, at least that's what it had on the dev server, and at the same time we'll have pretty much everything else the same compared to the other PUMA. They did technically add in the active protection system in a interesting way, so we'll have to see how that actually works. The PUMA has always had an APS, but I've never actually seen it do anything. So maybe I just don't understand it, or maybe it just stops targets that usually it doesn't fight. But yeah, it would be nice to see it. What is quite hilarious about this article, though, is they say this. However, if you're going to be playing this vehicle, be aware of its shortcomings, mainly found in its armor, being only light protection when excluding the ARA elements found integrated within the hull of the PUMA's side. Yes, the armor is not good when you exclude the armor. They also released the Antelope Devblog, which is pretty cool. This is the new SBAA coming in for China. It's going to be at rank 8. And basically what it is just 4 missiles on a truck. The other part, which is quite nice in the Devblog though, is they have put in it's going to get a thermal imager. So it'll be at least easier to spot targets, so therefore you can lock on the IR missiles. The missiles themselves are good, like they work very well. What's interesting is in the Devblog they actually talk about it having a 150 horsepower diesel engine, but on the dev server they changed it to 145. So I don't know if the Devblog's lying to me again, or and also the top speed of shy of 100 kilometers an hour. Yeah, but I don't know if the Devblog's lying to me again, like a lot of them have, but c'est la vie. It's just how it is. The actual missiles themselves seem pretty good. The general fact is this vehicle is put into China because they have this really weird gap in AAs, and we're going to see more and more of these types of vehicles come in for nations at the high echelons, but the problem is they only deal with half of the aircraft that they actually fight. So they're great against planes. You're going to get 4 shots of planes, maybe some of them miss. You'll probably get guaranteed 2 kills from 4 launches. If you do it usably, if you do it properly, you'll probably get 4 out of 4 because these missiles are actually pretty good. But once again, good luck against helicopters because they have to get really close for you to lock onto them because their IR signatures are tiny. So that's going to be the main problem with this thing, just like pretty much every other vehicle that's in this IR boat from like 9.0 to 11.0. And I feel bad for them because I've played them and it sucks that you try and fight the good fight and you try and actually defend your team, and all you have in this vehicle is 4 missiles and the ability to scout, and half the time the vehicles you face you can't lock onto, and they're just allowed to annihilate your whole side, and it sucks. It really does. But anyway, that's 2 of the Devblogs that came out today, plus the changelogs, and also of course the event. So make sure to get cracking. A lot of stuff going on with War Thunder, and we haven't even mentioned the start of the Bahram event, which is going on. So kind of crazy. Bunch of stuff. As always, though, hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.